Hi, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of the Ethicast, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia at the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Jennifer May of Broadcat, CEO, and look, you guys have got great titles. Head Cheerleader, which is the coolest title around. I love it.
Thanks, Billy.
Broadcat, for those of you who don't know, is a fantastic company. And I have to be honest with you, I'm supposed to be objective about these things, but I'm not with Broadcat because I've been following you guys for a long, long time. And I really appreciate high-end graphic design. I appreciate visual communication. I appreciate the sense of constructive whimsy you guys bring to what you do. But enough of me, bigging you up. Why don't you can you talk to us about what is Broadcat's mission? What are you doing? And with respect to like what Erica said earlier about we're all here to learn 5 new things, make 4 new friends.
Yeah.
What are some of the new things you're trying to get people to learn here at the Global Ethics Summit?
Thanks so much, Bill, for asking that question. And thank you for having me on the Ethicast. This is super exciting. I'm excited to be here live. And what we're trying to do at Broadcat is really bring a different way of thinking about training to everyone's portfolio and to their vocabulary. We like to think of training less about communicating around, hey, this is a risky thing. Fraud is bad. You shouldn't do it. It needs to be, okay, this is what this might look like in your world. This is how you might intersect this in your job and your role.
Mm-hmm.
And so by design, that can be a little more challenging for compliance officers because you basically have to learn everybody's role and then try to figure out how to say, okay, well, you in the sales job, this is how you would avoid risk. This is what you need to do. But it's really the right work. And that's the right way to communicate with folks around helping them do their job better.
Yep.
You become a resource. You become a place for people to go to get help and support.
Sure.
And that's really what our mission is. And we're trying to really change the conversation, change the vocabulary around what training is and what it can be.
Now, when we talk about ethical culture and a really high functioning organization, managers are always at the they're the fulcrum of it. They're always there, and we talk about it all the time, all year long. We know you do as well. It's been talked about just today here at GES. Some about manager training in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that training piece is so very difficult because so many organizations kind of have a hard time with that training piece. They stumble on it or they don't know how to approach it. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing as far as how are you trying to move the needle and helping organizations be better at training their managers?
Well, and I think that's such a great place to be at. And it's a tough one. I mean, when I was in-house, it was a tough one to let go of some of that a little bit. And so you've got to feel comfortable with it. But it really, your managers, those are the people that are closest to their employees. They're not seeing you, the compliance officer, every single day. They're seeing their manager probably every day or talking to them on a very, very regular basis. And that's the person they're interacting with the most.
Sure.
So having the manager be able to help carry the water for the compliance team is a great way to continue that conversation and expand the conversation out and also get a little bit more information about what exactly are those risks that are impacting those people in the moment. But you've got to make sure what I found is you really got to make sure that those managers are comfortable with the conversation.
Sure.
And so what we're trying to do is bring a toolkit approach to that, much like we do with most of the Broadcat things, is to make it user friendly, make it easy by providing a toolkit that goes along with a lot of our job aids, where that toolkit can be used to help explain to the managers what exactly the key points of those job aids are, what's the most important messages to send to their employees, how to start thinking about folding that into their workflows, and then ultimately how to get more help, because there's always going to be that situation which runs up on it and they get to a point, but they're probably going to need some more help at some point. So how do they reach out to you? How do they find you as the compliance person to get that more help or when those situations get a little stickier?
Yeah. Now, one of the things I really appreciate about your approach is, and you can see this, by the way, here, if you come to the expo center and the exhibition room here at GES, you have these wonderful stickers on your table that they look like old school, like sailor tattoos. They say ethics, compliance, and they're just kind of fun. They have a sense of whimsy.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of what you do is the visual language you use to communicate these things is always it's got a very particular style, a very particular visual technique to it.
Yeah.
And it seems to thread that very narrow eye of having enough whimsy to be engaging, but also being on point enough to be on message.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about how you and your colleagues at Broadcat really kind of develop and really marinate in that visual language. Like, what informs the visual aspects you use? Because that's such a big part of how you guys reach your audience.
Yeah, and I got to give a shout out to our founder Ricardo Pelafone. He really pioneered this whole idea of bringing not only the content is the most important thing, but bringing it in a way that's going to be engaging for folks, and the visual part of it is absolutely important. You could say people learn in different ways. I think it's kind of all of the above, that folks learn through all of those things together. And so when you have really solid content that's married up with explainer images, or in some cases videos or iconography that really helps to reinforce the message of the content, that's the most important thing. So we're always looking at content first, deciding who our audience is, who are we speaking to with this piece, what are we trying to convey to them in terms of the content, and then how can the imagery, how can the icons help support that message and make it stick even tighter.
So what's a good example? I don't want you to name names, of course, but what's a good example of an organization that really took what you're talking about here, really implemented it, and then saw that change they really wanted to see?
Yeah, I think without naming names, we've got a lot of great clients out there, and some of them are here. Welcome to GES. If you're here or if you're online, I know some of you are, so hi. They're just really doing great things, and I think what we find is when folks really are willing to lean into kind of the multimedia aspect of it, doing things like implementing those the toolkits with their managers. So they'll take the job aid, but then train their managers on how to have a conversation around that. Help them by pushing it out through a newsletter, posting it on a Slack channel, embedding it into a leader's PowerPoint presentation for the next town hall. Whatever it is, when they start multimedia and mixing up that message, that's when they start to really see a lot of good groundwork coming and a lot of groundswell of information, because you're hitting people not only with the right message in the right way, but multiple times. And that's so very important. So when they're thinking about a content company that they want to work with, finding ones that you can really use those messages in multiple ways, I think is really valuable.
Last question. Where can people go to learn more?
Thanks so much. Yeah, you can head over to our website. It's thebroadcat.com, or just email us at hi@thebroadcat.com.
Is that really your email address?
That is our email address.
That's so good.
Absolutely. Or just stop by here if you're at the booth here at GES, or we've got a virtual booth too for any of our folks that are virtual attendees.
Wonderful. Well, Jennifer, it is always a pleasure to speak with you again. Thank you so much for joining us on the show one more time. Great to have you at GES. And everybody, if you're attending, please stop by the Broadcat booth. There's plenty going on there, and Jennifer would love to speak with you.
Absolutely.
This is another live episode of the Ethicast coming to you from the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit. I'm your host, Bill Coffin. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye now.